My mic got caught. I'm bad at YouTube. I filmed this intro twice already. First time my camera whacked out. I think I need a new camera. Second time my mic wasn't on. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and also welcome to my planty home. If you couldn't tell, I like plants. Leaf drop, soil spills, broken planters, watermarks, you know, all sorts of things make this hobby a little bit messier. But over the years, I've implemented a few different habits or methods to keeping my planty home a little bit tidier. I hope you find these helpful. Of course, if you have a tip that I don't mention in this video, I would really appreciate it if you left that down in the comments. Others will appreciate it as well. Let's help each other out to have overall tidier plant collections. If things are tidy, it just makes it a lot more enjoyable for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of you are the same way. Messy home, messy mind. I don't know if that's the saying. I know there's a saying like that though. Maybe it's not exactly that. Anyway, tip number one. Tip number one, I'm gonna show you this Hoya Weibergier. Leave a gap between the top of the pot and the top of your substrate. This Hoya Weibergier is a great example. The substrate is down here. Top of the pot is up here. We have about this much wiggle room when watering. My Sansevieria masoniana back here, I potted this completely level with the top of the planter, and every time I water this, not only do I end up with water spillage, it's a lot more difficult to adequately saturate the plant because I have to water it in smaller little. Every single time I water the Sansevieria, potting mix falls out everywhere. By now I've added a saucer underneath, but we'll get into that in a little bit because I do have some saucer tips as well. Stay tuned. It also helps overall with the health of the plant because I'm much more able to adequately water my plants. I'm not having to just give them tiny little splashes so constantly. The gap at the top also helps me be able to add a lot more water at one time so I can rest easy knowing my plant is being thoroughly saturated. You know, with this plant, I do have to just kind of give it little drops of little splashes of water here or there, or I do end up with a mess and not as much water can fill at the top of the pot. So much easier, so much more cleanly. No messes here, lots of messes here. And although this plant does lack in that category, it is great for tip number two, which is I actually really like potting my plants into planters with no drainage hole. And I know it sounds crazy. It kind of goes against everything we're told as plant beginners, but once you get a little bit of a hang of plant care, it does get a lot easier to tell when our plants need watered. So like this plant, no drainage hole. That just helps keep, obviously, water from dripping too much out of the drainage hole. So it is actually what I prefer now. I will say it does depend a little bit on what kind of potting mix you use to if this will work for you. If you use a super dense mix, this might not be the best method on this list for you, but especially for smaller plants and super chunky, airy mixes, it works great. Back to that first trick, I have by now put the planter on top of this makeshift saucer I thrifted. You can see there's a lot of stuff at the bottom of this. I'm gonna throw that away actually. And that helps protect my shelf from the mess that inevitably comes with each time I water this plant. I think maybe one of the easiest things you can do to help keep a plant collection tidy is switch out your saucers. I know not having a drainage hole isn't for everybody. So if that's not a route you're willing to go or don't feel ready for, a really easy thing you can do is tip number three. If your plant does have a drainage hole, use a deeper saucer. I'll flash some examples of my favorite saucers on screen, and cover pots definitely kind of belong in this category because yes, have saved my ass so many times when it comes to messes. Really just any bigger container that can help contain spills. Very, very helpful. I don't know about you guys, but up until maybe the last year or so, I've always just bought those small little terracotta saucers. Do I have a good example here? I do actually have one right here. I've always just used the typical saucer, which, you know, they're like very shallow, not a whole lot of water will fill with them. So I can't believe it took me so long to think of this, but by using deeper little containers and dishes underneath my plants, it's able to hold a lot more water, resulting in less overflows. I mean, okay, it does still happen. It happened in one of my recent videos. That was kind of my bad. I was just being negligent, but anyway, yeah, the shallower the saucer, the easier it is to overfill. So actually all of my favorite saucers are ones that I have thrifted. They're super cheap. Usually around me, I can get them for 25 cents to $1. They look a lot nicer. It's a lot more eco-friendly because we're using products that are already out there, already made, rather than buying new. Yeah, I love them. This is so cute. So even to solve the Sansevieria problem, I use a really wide, pretty deep saucer, and it can hold a lot of the overflow, overspill when I water that plant. Same with this Hoya here. Not only do these help with messes, but they do help with overall plant health, especially if you're somebody who struggles to know if you're thoroughly watering your plants. I know that was kind of something I always struggled with. I would just kind of splash my plant with water and call it good. But now I'm able to really water enough so that I'm sure everything has been dampened, and I have quite a bit of wiggle room down here. So it has been really helpful. It gives me a lot of ease of mind, and overall really makes my waterings more cleanly and also quicker because I don't have to worry so much about if I'm adding too much water. You could also, of course, take your plants to the sink or the shower to give them a really thorough soak there. That will result in less messes, but I have a full video about all of the benefits of spraying your plants down here. So definitely head there if you'd like to hear about all those benefits and why I personally feel we should all be showering with our plants. Ding! I brought you to my bathroom, to one of my most messy bathroom windowsills. Oh gosh. And I know for a fact this is something that probably all plant keepers struggle with, but ignore all this. This is from my house settling, but here you can see the ring from where I've kept saucers. Same with over here, and it also peeled up the paint because originally I was using terracotta saucers on my windowsills, and this is what you can expect if doing that. Those rings on my windowsills are actually a result of using terracotta saucers on the painted windowsill. Terracotta is porous. Where the saucers do catch water, if you're not dumping out the extra water from those saucers every time, the clay is going to absorb a lot of the moisture and leave little rings or even pill up paint all over the windowsill. The one in my bathroom is really bad. I didn't empty out the saucer for like a year, so when I went to move the saucer off of my windowsill, it actually peeled up a lot of the paint and it just looks horrible, looks really messy. The paint peeling off and those weird little ring marks are from terracotta saucers. So I just really don't like those. You could get around this by putting little like foam pads on the bottom of the saucers, like a piece of plastic underneath them, or even some foam little pads to help protect your surfaces. But yeah, using those on wood or painted surfaces, no bueno. It just looks messy. It bugs me so bad. So instead, going back to the thrifted saucers, my favorites, these don't stick. They don't leave marks the same way that the porous saucers do. Win, 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 win. There's so many reasons these are awesome. This one is crystal. Really anything in the dish section is going to work really well as a saucer. If you don't have any saucers on hand, but you're having issues with it, you could even just stick your plant in a bowl temporarily until you're able to find something. Use the bowl as like somewhat of a cover pot, you know? There's all sorts of cool things to be thrifted out there. Really, I think like the best thing you could do for messes is to switch out your saucers. Talked about a few different reasons of why it can be of benefit to your plants. We're adding this to the list, okay? There's so many reasons. Tip number 5 is my newest discovery that I didn't realize was going to make as big of a difference as it does. But especially if you have a plant shelf similar to mine that sits a little bit up off the floor, it is so helpful to get a vacuum that goes completely flat. We've used the same vacuum for years and years now. We finally just upgraded a few months ago. This was our Christmas gift to ourselves. We don't really do gifts. We just get a big thing that we both will use. I know this one isn't as affordable as a lot of these other tips, but it has made a huge difference because with, you know, leaf drop or even like my peace lily, it has a lot of pollen that falls off of the blooms. This vacuum has really helped to keep clean up really, really easy. I don't have to actually move all of my furniture to be able to vacuum underneath them anymore. Or I don't have to get down flat on my belly and wipe everything out. It's just so much easier, okay? So if you're able to, I highly recommend getting even just like a handheld vacuum that can fit underneath your furniture, or there's like even little teeny tiny ones. It just makes it a lot easier to clean up the leaf drop. We got a Dyson. I don't know what it is. It's a cordless one, but we love it. It's 100% worth the money, and I honestly wish we would have just got this one to begin with. Tip number 6 is to use a white vinegar water mixture to spray on your plant leaves. And this is another multi-functional trick, because for me, I like to use this spray as I'm moving my plants into my shower to spray them off like we talked about before. So I'll give them a quick spray with the white vinegar water mixture, let that dry, and then I'll go ahead and spray them off with water. And what I really love about this one is it is excellent at removing hard water spots on plant leaves. So if you live somewhere with super minerally water, you know what I'm talking about, but like my plants end up with rings all over on their leaves, especially on my thicker leaved plants, like Hoyas especially. They get these little white, kind of salty looking buildups on the leaves, but this vinegar spray removes that in a jiff. So into a 1 gallon sprayer, I'll add 1 cup of white vinegar and fill up the sprayer the rest of the way with water and spray down my plants really well. I do think having a sprayer is really, really handy in plant keeping. So these are the 2 sprayers I use and really love. So I'll have them linked down below, but yeah, I just add my white vinegar mixture into the sprayers and spray them down and then rinse them off in the shower. So not only is the white vinegar great at removing the hard water spots, of course dust and stuff gets rinsed off too, but it is actually a preventative for pests. It'll kill spider mites. It'll kill pretty much any bug on your plants. But not only will it kill the bugs on your plant right now, but it actually can help prevent pests from wanting to be on your plant to begin with. Love that. You got to be a little bit careful and make sure that you're diluting it properly, because the white vinegar can kill your plant roots. So honestly, I don't recommend using this for super delicate plants. I wouldn't use it on begonia, you know, any of the plants with super fine root systems that just seem to melt really easily. Okay, and tip number 7 is the one that has taken me the longest in all of my years of plant keeping to learn, and it is to just space out my plants. There are so many reasons why this is really helpful. I personally follow something that I call the 3-move rule, which, for example, my plant shelf here, yes, it looks pretty full, but I make sure that everything is spaced out enough that I don't have to move any more than 3 objects out of the way to get to the furthest back plants. So like, you know, this would be 1, 2. Now I can reach my plant. For a while there, I was really just shoving as many plants as I could on whatever flat surfaces got sunlight in my house. And not only did that make it really difficult to see when my plants were having issues, because sometimes the plants that were furthest back in the shelves were just like too covered with plants in front of them that I couldn't even enjoy them. I couldn't even see them back there. So I wasn't taking care of the plants properly, which led to a lot more messes because plants were dying, leaves were dropping, you know, all that sort of thing. I couldn't see that that was happening. So plants in the back just went downhill, downhill, downhill. But also it made it so that it was such a pain in the ass to move everything off of my surfaces that I never ever wiped them down. And don't get me wrong, I need to wipe this down, but even just how it is right now, I could move a couple of plants here and there and really easily wipe this down. So I do think that that is of benefit. I really, really do. That is a rule that I'm pretty strictly following lately. And not even that I have to force myself to follow it. Well, in the beginning, I kind of had to force myself. But now since I've started following this, I will never go back. Not only are my surfaces a lot cleaner, because I'm able to more easily clean them a lot more often, but my plants are a lot healthier because I can see each individual plant instead of things being just covered by other plants. I'm having less leaf drop, less issues. all sorts of things. So it is something I really live by now. And obviously with any of these tips, like it comes down to how lazy a person is. I'm pretty lazy and like I don't want to be wiping surfaces. So if I have to move 100 plants off the shelf to clean it off, I'm just not going to do it. But you know, if I have to move 30 plants off the shelf, that's totally doable. That is totally doable. I can do that in half an hour, you know? It just makes it a lot easier mentally for me as someone who is not naturally a tidy person. So tip number 8 is to invest in some sort of potting mat. I do think it's something as a plant keeper that is very much worth buying, especially if you're someone that lives somewhere with very cold winters where you can't always take your plants outside to repot them. The mat has come in so handy because I can unpot my plants on it. The mess is consolidated to one space. My mat, you can like clip the corners together, so you end up with a little bit of a shallow box type thing that contains all of the mess. So I can unpot my plant, whatever mess is left at the potting mat, I can just really easily dump out into a soil bin or wherever, into the garbage, and it's super easy. Spray it off in the shower, into the garbage, and it's super easy cleanup. It's just all consolidated. I really don't even have to vacuum anymore most of the time after potting, which has been such a godsend. It also has helped me keep my plants a lot healthier because I'm not dreading the terrible cleanup after my potting sessions, which is great. My last tip number 9, is to consolidate all of your planting supplies to one area. And I don't know why, but I'm like really terrible organization wise. I just don't have that mindset. I'm like, just throw things wherever it's most convenient for me at the moment. And then I lose track of everything. I end up rebuying things that I already have, but I forgot where I put it, you know, that kind of stuff. So it ended up being a little bit of a waste of money, which nobody wants to be wasting money, but I've now consolidated all of my planting supplies to one shelf down in our cold storage in the basement. It's really easy for me to keep track of everything and know what I have in stock and on hand. So yeah, like I'm saving money. I'm not losing my shit all the time. Earlier today in this cabinet, I found my liquid earth that I hadn't put away a time before. I just know that I need to move that to my potting shelf. When I realized, took it down to my plant shelf, and now I know where it is. I kind of always know where my things are. Yeah, like sometimes I forget, or when things get hectic, sometimes things get just shoved wherever I can shove them, but I always know where things need to go as I find them like scattered around my house. So it keeps my house a lot more tidy looking to have that one designated shelf for all of my plant stuff. In my last house, I actually kept everything. I'll show you. I bought these storage bins where I kept all of my potting supplies in this, and it was a really easy way to store all of my stuff. But now it has become a place for our hats and gloves, like our outside cold weather stuff. So I love these bins no matter what. You can use them for so many different things, but yeah, this is what I stored mine in before. Easy enough, right? Just gives me so much ease of mind as I'm trying to prepare to take care of my plant stuff. I just immediately know where everything is. And yeah, that might seem like a really easy tip for some people, but for people like me, kind of like, I don't want to say brainless because that's not the word. I know I have brains. I know I'm smart in my own way. I'm just not organized. It really, really makes things so much easier. I'm not good at organization, okay? I'm just not. It's something I'm working on though. Anyway, those are all of my tips. Please let me know your thoughts. And again, I beg of you, please share your own tips down in the comments. Let's help each other out to have a better overall plant keeping experience. I really hope my tips were helpful for you. And I appreciate you being here, so thank you. That's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!